Welcome to the Awaken New Earth podcast with your host, Richard Melchizedek from Starseeds Changing the World. So excited to get this podcast back and going. And I had so much motivation to do this lately just to bring some of our amazing soul family onto the podcast. Welcome to the Awaken New Earth podcast with your host, Richard Melchizedek from Starseeds Changing the World. So excited to get this podcast back and going. And I had so much motivation to do this lately just to bring some of our amazing soul family onto the podcast. And today I have with me Michele from Sovereign Souls, who's a beautiful soul sister of mine that I just feel so connected to on so many levels. And I'm really excited to have you on and to share space with you and to really see what we get in today on this Awaken New Earth podcast. Michele, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Definitely. First of all, thank you, Richard. I absolutely feel the same. There's been so much resonance for me since I started working with you and getting to know you. And I know that we are family, as a lot of us. So thank you. I'm honored for you to have me on the podcast. I enjoyed your podcast back when you were doing it a little bit more regularly. So I'm really grateful that you're actually starting it up again. So I am very dedicated to my path, as are we all, I think, on this krystic path. And a couple of years ago, I started a business called Sovereign Souls. Well, actually, it was called something different back then, but I've just recently had a name change because I wanted to be really in alignment with what my mission is, and that is to support our beautiful family to really foster and step into their soul sovereignty so that we no longer have to be in any fear and that we can be really soul aligned and step into the purpose of what we're here to do, because we're all here for a reason. And everything's getting really real at the moment. It's really go time. So I feel like that was really cool to do that. And it happened quite quickly after my awakening. I just felt this rush to be a way shower. I didn't even really know what a way shower was. I'm like, what is this? What is this way shower business? And I ran with it. And if you had have known me 5 years ago, you would never have thought in a million years that I'd be sitting here doing this kind of stuff, because I was shy. I couldn't speak in public. I wouldn't have thought to do a video and put myself out there. But all of this changes when you step into your soul purpose. And that's what I want to help other people do.
That is so beautifully said. And I feel that there's like that calling just to step out and into action. And we don't necessarily always understand fully what we're getting into when we first do it, but there is like such a deep soul resonance to help our family and to get out there and to start really bringing in like truth for everyone at this time. So in understanding that truth and what's like that true resonance that we kind of operate in whole as we start to awaken and develop more, what does the krystic like path mean to you? Because I know I'm on the krystic path, you're on the krystic path, and there's a lot of our viewers that are probably wondering like, what is the krystic path?
Yeah, good question. For me, it's about bridging all of our higher multi-dimensional parts back to our Christ consciousness. Because there have been obviously a lot of manipulations on this planet about the word Christ, and we've been lied to about what Christ is, and we're actually all Christ. We just need to do our inner work to then reconnect ourselves to that consciousness, which we all have access to. We also have 12 strands and beyond of DNA, which we all have access to, and we bridge these back together when we bring all of these back into our physical body. So we have the potential for Christ consciousness on Earth, and as we step into 5D, there is going to be more and more and more of that consciousness expansion. It's happening right now. And so I think, even when I was on a spiritual path in the past, it was just all about tarot and astrology and divinity, and it didn't have the depth that my path has now, because now, being on a krystic path, I feel God in everything. even in the dark stuff that's happening, it's like it's all God, it's all krystic. It's just all different kind of facets of it. So it's a different depth for me, and it's different devotion. So I hope that it clarifies, but it's just a way of being, and it's just access to what we have available to us. We've been told that we're, parasitic humans, that are, we're kind of the cause of all of the destruction on the planet, and that we should be eradicated, and all of this heartbreaking stuff. But that is just such a lie. We are amazing. We just have been, we've had that hidden from us, and it's time for that to no longer be hidden, and for us to access all of that truth now. It's an incredible time to be on the planet.
It's like true humanity. What is true humanity? True humanity is actually like unconditional love, and it's like living as that, like Christ itself. Most of the things we've created on the earth at this time has been created out of the shadows. It actually hasn't been created from a true like Christ itself. And this is where there's like that level of confusion, because most people have been looking in the wrong places, as we've been operating from a negative like ego self level of creation, which is very three-dimensional. It's very disconnected, and it's very limited in terms of its like perception of what like source consciousness is. It's a fragmented like version of reality, I would say, at best. So when I hear things about like humanity, like true humanity isn't angry. It's not aggressive. It's not, destructive. That's not humanity. Like true humanity is, like angelic humanity, or like very loving and unconditional, and able to embody like 12 dimensions of consciousness. And this is what's been so disconnected here, and that we're starting to, come in to more of understanding at this time. So how is it, like, how do we rise up at this time, during ascension, the new earth that's like coming through, and all of this? What is your feelings on this? How does our family rise up?
Well, it's really simple and complicated at the same time, is what I always say. The simplicity is that all we have to do is stay true to our pillar, our core of our truth. Once we start to unfold that and let that come to the surface, and we start to remember, it's about then just staying in alignment. Mm-hmm. So that is, if we take actions that are constantly out of alignment, and we're doing things that we know are not in our truth, then we're not going to be able to raise and rise up. We're going to be staying in that version of humanity, which is those lower three chakras, that negative ego, because we're not being true to ourselves. So it's simple. We just have to do our inner work, compassionately witness the traumas and the programs as they be released, and come into our truth. Now, that is easier said than done, yes, but actually once you start, you build momentum, is in my experience, and it's actually a lot more simple. So like I said, 5 years ago, if you had said that I'd be doing this, it'd be like, no way. I had too many programs that I was still connected to, of fear, and putting myself out there and speaking, in public about spirituality. Even to my friends, I couldn't tell them how spiritual I was inside, but I wasn't being my true self, and life wasn't going that well for me. It was full of challenges and obstacles. But once we just jump all in to that truth and start to do our deep healing work, things start to fall into place, and we manifest what we need, and we create the reality that we need. But it does take a bit of bravery, and just a jumping all in, really, I think.
I heard you mention compassionate witness. What would you like to explain in a little bit deeper what that means for us to compassionately witness?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a call process that when I work with my clients, and we're always doing it every day for ourselves, is that when we're just witnessing our responses and our reactions to triggers in the outside world and the inner world, and rather than go down a kind of negative thought form and spiral of what we've witnessed, which obviously we're trying to release our negative thought form patterns and our limiting beliefs. We hold compassion in both our hearts for both ourselves and also for others, because we're also witnessing everything. But the most important thing for me is witnessing ourselves and just holding compassion that we're actually programmed. And this is the time that we're releasing those programs. So it's not a need for judgment, because that would actually be bringing in another program. We need to let the judgment go and just hold that place in our heart that this is time that we let go of all that stuff. It's like I had a client yesterday. I know she won't mind me telling you this. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
She said that when she compassionately witnesses, she says sorry, that she's kind of gone, oh, sorry, I've done that again. And I said, how about we try and let that go, that sorry, because when we say sorry for what we've witnessed, we're actually just creating another kind of lack program that we're not good enough. We don't need to say sorry. We just need to acknowledge that it's happened. Oh, okay, and just let that go. We've got to be aware of it and then release. It really is that simple. And we're doing it maybe 100 times a day. It doesn't matter.
I love that you said about the judgment piece, because this is something I was working with a client as well. And, they were doing the compassionate witnessing, but they were judging themselves. And they were judging themselves because they didn't want to feel sad or feel grief. And they were judging their spiritual journey. Like, I should be this awakened by now, or I should be here. I shouldn't feel this way. And when we're in that state, it's just like you said, we're trying to be present with the grief, but we're judging the grief we're feeling. And at that state, it's like we're not actually allowing ourselves to release. And this is how like deep the levels and programming, runs within people, where it's like almost we try to work through one thing and we're actually triggering another thing on top, and we're not actually holding the compassionate part. So just by you explaining that, I feel that's going to help a lot of people who are listening to this, because I feel a lot of them are doing that. Like, there's so much judgment on the journey, especially for awakening people. There's I feel it's very challenging for them to figure out, like, well, where do we fit in this world right now, and everything that's going on. It's in a constant state of flux, so where is it that you feel people can kind of find a safe space, like at this time? Like, how do we bring this all together for them?
Yeah, so this is where I think our communities are so important. So podcasts like this, and even though social media has its issues, it's also a really important tool to bring our family together at this time, because we're spread all over the place. So I've got a shadow work community on Facebook. It's very small, but I wanted to create that safe space for those on their shadow work, on their journey of healing, to be able to just open up and support each other. You are very good at bringing community with Starseeds Changing the World and the Starseeds School communities. So I think if people, if they're hesitant about reaching out, I say don't be. If you can help it, just try and be brave, because there are a lot of souls out there awakening, and we need each other. Because when we first awaken, it is a really crazy time, and you think you're almost going a little bit loopy. So you need other people to support you and because there's kind of a journey in our ascension, and even though it's different for everyone, we go through particular steps that are similar, is what I've found. And someone who's gone through those steps before can really hold the hand of someone who's about to go through those steps. And it's very important. And that's what we're here to do. We're not here to be alone and go through awakening isolated. Now, I live in Australia. I don't know anyone really close by that's on the krystic path, but I have so many family that I connect with online, including yourself, all the time, maybe on a daily basis. And I need that. So we have to not be afraid to reach out, because there's a lot of us around. We're just spread out because we're holding the light in all different parts of the world. as an acupuncture point to keep that pillar of light down and spreading the light out. And so for that reason, we are a little bit isolated at times, but only geographically, not spiritually.
Now, when you hear New Earth, what does that mean to you?
It means a time when humanity will realize its truth and it will move into its higher heart complex and more. So a lot of the spiritual journeys stay in that 4D astral heart. So they work through some of the ego stuff in the lower three chakras, but they get to the astral heart and they think that's all that there is. But there's so much more. And New Earth will be when we come into the inner standing that we are all so much more, and that Earth has the potential to be completely different to what this is. There will be no negative ego. There will be compassion. There will be remembering. There will be us forming communities and helping and supporting each other rather than, dog eat dog, just kind of just doing it for ourselves the way this world has been created. And I'm seeing this happen now. Like there's people like us that are creating these new Earth businesses, and they're popping up all over the place. So it's already started. It's just now it's a time just to keep it going with the momentum. There's a lot of love in New Earth. Obviously that's the frequency that kind of holds it all together. There has to be love, and there's a reduction or an absolute. There's no fear, because we can't have New Earth if there's fear underneath it. We have to really be coming from that love frequency at all times.
I feel every word you're saying there, and I can feel so much of the difference right now with between like the reality that we're in, and then between the reality that a lot of our family are in right now, and the frequencies are two different realities, two different earths. It feels like to me right now as well, where New Earth is like here, and it's being built day by day, moment by moment. It's more like an unfoldment, that's like occurring within each one of us that are stepping out, like you said, and at this time, and building communities. I truly am just curious to see where we're all going to be in a little bit, because I look at when you said you look back at where you were 5 years ago, and just the perceptions of like the spiritual community, or what we were doing at that time, and then to where we are now. Like, I think the last 4 days, we literally had the Schumann just blacked out. And for myself, I can, get into things, and I can be very flow, but I can also get into projects. And I was just put into slow motion for the last 4 days, where it was like, if you would put me literally into slow motion, like I could not pick up a pace for anything. And it just really opened up like a whole new like reality that's like coming through even deeper. And I just feel the changes occurring so much, like dimensionally right now, where things that we were not able to perceive, like, with shamans, it's like we're walking through, one foot in this world and one foot in that. I feel like we have one foot in this, and then one foot in like, 50 dimensions over here. Almost, it's like all these like different ones are blending together right now, and kind of bleeding through, almost, it feels like. So I'm just curious in terms of like how that was for you, like some of the things that you may have experienced over the last like 4 days through this like major like blackout.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. We kind of like our New Earth shamans at the moment, aren't we? Because, they're the kind of new kind of shaman. But it's been, so I've had really significant headache on my left side. It's gone all the way down under my eye, and my husband had it a little bit too. And we were, it's sometimes really hard to figure out if something's an ascension symptom, if something's a new, if something's from, you know, other kind of more nefarious stuff that's going on. But really, I try and just kind of keep my perception on the fact that it's probably my light body expanding and my plasma body expanding, and I've just got to, you know, go through it. But yes, and also in this house lately, there's more and more beautiful energy. I'm just seeing like energy walking through my house. It's been there from the beginning since I moved in, but the last few days has been like, it's like, am I ever alone in this house? There's just so much energy, golden energy, particularly, and like silver energy. So I think, you know, this, like I said before, seeing God in everything, I just sit and I'll just be grateful that they're showing themselves to me to let me know that it's okay. This is a challenging time, but you're not doing this alone. So I've been getting that kind of confirmation a lot lately, and synchronicities, which I try to pay attention to. I always have, my whole life, have been on the rise for me the last few days as well. So that gives us comfort. And I think when you're newly awakened and you don't have the understanding of what these things are, ascension symptoms, synchronicities, and what, you know, how much our light bodies are changing, it can be really overwhelming. So that's another reason why we need to, like, I know about this stuff because of the other people that have helped me along my journey, and I can be comforted by that. But the solstice was crazy as well. You know, there's ever since the 555 portal, I think it's just been escalating. Personally, for me, I've felt that.
Yeah, same. I love that you were speaking about really like trying to understand, you know, some of these pieces as they're coming through, because I would think back also where it's like, now is this like a physical thing, like am I sick, or is this an ascension flu, or is like my light body's upgrading, Merkaba, is this my DNA, my nervous system, what is this? And for a lot of people, you know, they just not going to be aware of what's occurring when they start going through awakening, and it can trigger like that like fear response where, you know, they just immediately go into like fear. I learned at one point it's so much easier when we start to embrace the journey, you know, and we stop fighting ourselves and fighting everything that starts to occur. So whether that's, you know, ascension symptoms, and we just, you know, we're grateful for them and we really embrace what we're integrating, that integration is always more peaceful, even if it can still be very intense. But when we go into the, you know, the fear response, like over it, it just always tends to prolong things and make that transition not as smooth. So do you have any advice for someone who's waking up, and how did they discern like what is an ascension flu, or like, you know, what is like a physical ailment, or what is a spiritual ailment? What is like my ascension like being activated, or how do I know like I'm awakening onto like the ascension path?
Yeah, and it's a challenge because I think a lot of people can get really bogged down with those physical symptoms, and or just mistake them for 5G coming on, or, you know, that they are actually getting sick. Now, the reality is that our body is going through such a lot of transition when we are becoming, we're activating our crystals are in our chakras, we're activating our crystalline body, and then we're activating our light bodies holding more light. It needs to expand. So it can, I mean, it's physical because we're embodied. But I think just taking care of your health physically, no matter what, is going to help. So that's the first thing that I realized that I had to do. And so as soon as I stepped onto my spiritual path, not that I was ever a big drinker, but I gave up all alcohol, meat. That was just for me. You don't have to, but that was just what I felt was in resonance. And I just wanted to eat more lightly to see if that kind of helped bring some of the symptoms down. Now, I was lucky. I had a very, and I still am having a very gradual Kundalini Now, if someone's having a kind of overnight kundalini or a very rapid, which is happening more and more now because the energy is just so much more of a higher frequency coming in, rest. And don't try and get too caught up in the mind. Let the mind go, anchor into your heart. Obviously do your due diligence. If it could be something really physical and serious, get it checked out. Don't just put it all down to Ascension Symptoms, but take the rest you need, because what, and I struggled to do this initially, is to rest. And so now if I just need to go on the couch and lie down prostate, I'll do it, you know, and just not even think about anything. I'll just try and fall asleep, or I'll just try and meditate or breathe. And if I have to do that for an hour in the middle of the day, so be it. Like, everything can wait. Yeah. This is eternal. This stuff's important. And if you've got people in your home that don't understand, or you've got kids, I know that makes it extra challenging. But then when you do have time for yourself, take that extra little bit of time if you can, because it's hard to fathom that our physical bodies are undergoing so much, but I promise you they are. Because as we move into New Earth, we won't be quite as dense. We are going to lose a little bit of our density, is what I'm being told. And for that to happen, we have to have more light in our body. So allow it to happen. I was called, I think, a few months ago to do a Kundalini relief healing, because I had so many clients that were just, I don't know what to do with these feelings, and just to let the light come through them and just to rest. So I put that on my YouTube, and that's, I still play that for myself. It helps me a lot. So just taking a moment really just to come into your body. Also some movement of your body. So, some gentle yoga is really helpful for a lot of people. It doesn't have to be strenuous. Dance, bring back that joy, move. It doesn't have to be always so serious. And just take care of this body. This is the vehicle of our soul. And this is what's, going through a lot. So love this body. And rest assured that it'll undulate. Like at the moment, I think we've all had a lot more ascension symptoms than, say, a few months ago. That's just part of the process that will happen. And then it will calm down. And then it will ramp up again, and it will calm down. And it's kind of just the name of the game at the moment. It's just riding it out.
It's truly a beautiful time to be alive. I think back, and you and I both, we've always known there's been more out there than what we were doing in life whenever and wherever we were at that time. I know that's something ever since I was young. I just always knew I was here to make a difference. And I never bought any of the narratives or the things that were, force fed to me my entire life. And it took one day to go through a huge awakening where I was like, aha, I know there's more out there, and it's all, I'm just so grateful that we get to be here and to be way showers at this time. What does that mean, like, to you to be a way shower right now and to be helping our family through this? And where do you see this like going for you? Like, what's your calling right now?
So I had a similar experience where it literally kind of happened overnight in terms of my clicking in. Like the light that was moving through me was gradual, but it was an understanding or an understanding overnight that I needed to be doing finally what I kind of already in my subconscious knew. It just sort of moved into my conscious brain. And I heard the word way shower, and I was like, that's what I'm here to do. So to me, it is exactly as it sounds, showing the way without any hierarchy or dogma. It's just it's leading by example, even though you're not really leading, you're just showing, but also holding space for those who are still undergoing their journey. So I feel like it's more of a guide kind of process. And the thing is that I look to other way showers to guide me as well. And then they probably look to other way showers to guide them. And we're also being guided by the biggest way shower of all, which is God Source. Yeah. So it's a process that we are all just, people who are waking up now, they are potentially way showers as well. And they'll be doing the same for people as they wake up at a later time moment. But we have to walk the talk. So I'm all about sovereignty and being in alignment. And if I was spouting this stuff and, guiding my clients and other people to do it and I wasn't doing it, then I wouldn't be a very krystic way shower or a very good way shower at all. So I'm always witnessing and saying, am I actually doing what's in alignment? Am I actually staying sovereign and staying out of fear now? Because that's what I'm always telling everyone else to do. So it's about making sure that you're walking your talk, way showers. For me, that's important. And the other part of the question was, where do I see, what was that? Can you repeat that part for me?
Like your soul calling at this time.
Yeah. So it's, at first, I thought I'm a healer. That's what I'm supposed to do. But actually, Richard, it was after a session with you, it was already starting to change. And I was just on the precipice and you brought it up. And I was like, yeah, I've been feeling that too, that I actually knew that there was something more I was supposed to do. And so I never really 100% identified as a healer, because I feel like we do the healing work ourselves. That's really up to us. I can't heal anyone. And I wanted to, and I felt called to in my heart to be more around helping people be self-responsible for their healing, which meant stepping into their sovereignty. Hence, I changed my kind of direction to Sovereign Souls, which is about helping and supporting people to do their energetic hygiene work, to be responsible for their actions and their alignment, and to release fear and all of the programs. And rather than, because I'm sure you've had a similar thing, you have a lot of clients that will come to you to do this stuff over and over again, but they're not doing that kind of work on their own in their own time. And I was always stressing that that's the important work, is not not what you're doing with me, but what you do after the session.
For sure, yeah.
Between the sessions. And there's a lot of codependency that can happen within clients and healers. And I just knew that wasn't in alignment for me. And it wasn't what I was here to show. It wasn't part of being a way shower. So my mission is to help people step into their sovereignty, into their divine purpose. And hopefully, if they're called to be a way shower, they'll do that as well.
I love what you said about being a way shower, because like New Earth is like a community. It's unity consciousness at the end of the day, and everybody has a role within that unity consciousness, and we're all equal, we're all one, and we're all plugging into the puzzle to bring it all together and bringing something to that table. There's no one person that does everything, and I feel it's important for us to like leave behind now all of those old paradigms, and to really like show up and to be open and to be honest and to be humble, and to, I look at it like the round table, with it, there not being a head at the round table, like we're all coming to the table and bringing something to create the most epic meal of New Earth in all time, or however you want to, explain it, that there's a certain level of just knowingness or gnosis within us. That our place is important, it's special, it's sacred, and so is everybody else's.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we, once we start to see that and feel that unity consciousness so profoundly, so organically, it changes everything. Because I've had some clients, say, oh, that video you put out or that thing that you put out, it just felt like you were talking directly to me. And it's like, oh, that's because we're all one. And so in a way, like the energy that I'm going through and that I'm bringing through, you're experiencing it too. And so in a way, it is just for you. And we are all just one huge consciousness. And that was so profound for me, because that completely helped resolve judgment and criticism of others. Because at the moment, there's a lot of people who are still very, very, very asleep to what's going on. But rather than be critical of that, it's to have compassion for that. That's what unity consciousness is, because they are still part of us. And like, you're me and I'm you, and it's just such a profound concept that when you completely embody that concept, there's just no room for criticism. There's no room for judgment. There's actually only allows love in, which is completely what we're moving towards with the new earth. And it's just like walking on a cloud some days, and you embody that. It's an absolutely amazing space to hold.
Now, this is something that I know comes up for you because I see you post videos on it all the time. And it's the same for myself, where we still have to have these like hard conversations that at one time we may have not spoken about. We may have kept that like within our groups or within our client realms, and some of that not even. But there's a time for truth now more than ever to really be coming out, and disclosure, it's coming from us.
Yeah.
Like, disclosure is coming from us that are on the awakened path, that are constantly doing their best to be able to discern and hold their truth and hold their sovereignty. And we can, when we speak about unity consciousness, we're getting there on many levels, but there's also right now things that we're still working through, so this can be like bridged and understood on so many levels for our family. One of those is like, even when we say new earth, like what there is new earth to myself and to you and to a lot of our family, there's that sovereign understanding what it is. And then there's also a distorted understanding of what that is, like within the hijacked ascension cycle and within the hijacked new earth. So when we speak about being on the krystic path, uh, we also understand kind of some of the things that have occurred within the new age movement, which I'm sure all of us at some point were in that as well, and trying to really figure it out. And we fell into some of those things as part of our discernment training, and learning what's organic, what's artificial, what is inorganic. So now what just to kind of feel into that. And so when we say new earth, like how is everyone supposed like figuring this out right now? Because there's a lot of our family that are on the path, like myself and you and so many others, and then I see so many that are just giving their power away outside of themselves to some of these like hijacked new earth inorganic systems and things right now. Would you want to touch base on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it is something that I feel is part of my mission, and it hasn't always been. Like you said, I felt it inside, but I didn't want to rock the boat. But I've been pushed to speak about that, and as part of my way show a role. And it is, you've got to have challenging conversations, and you do get a lot of, I guess, resistance within that. But yes, so I've been there myself, and I think that's why I feel it so strongly. There is a false white light. There is a new age hijack path, which I feel is an inorganic path, a manipulated path, and then there's an organic ascension path. And this has been a way for the negative alien agenda to keep us enslaved, because we are on a prison planet. But we have so much more spiritual support, some organic support from the guardians and all of the orders that are helping us now. But it's still, this krystic path that we're on is still seemingly the minority. And so this is our job, to help people find their way to the organic path. Now, can we force them onto it? No, of course not. And that would be dogmatic, and I'm not at all for that. I just speak about it, and if it's in resonance with those who it's in resonance for, they will find their way to it. Now, one of those things that I speak about is the lunar matrix, which is, I felt very strongly because I was very infiltrated by it. The false lunar matrix, the moon doesn't spin the moon is inorganic. And when I talk about that, I get a lot of people go, oh my goodness, I felt that internally. And they just know when they feel in and be honest. And it's like, yeah, I always knew that there was something up with the moon. But then you'll get the people that are like, they're really attached to the shadow feminine that the moon holds. Look, and the only way out of this is in, as they say, and it's about using your discernment. And if someone doesn't really want to feel in to this truth just yet, that might be because their negative ego is still a little bit attached to they don't, it's a big paradigm shift. Your whole spiritual path has been, hijacked. It's kind of it's like, whoa, I don't know if I can handle that. But if you actually do feel in and just assess with your discernment and with your heart consciousness, if it's right for you, it's right for you, and you'll come to the organic path at this time. If it's not, it's not. But I am passionate about speaking my truth now, because if I didn't speak about this, I'd be out of alignment and I wouldn't be living my sovereignty. So as part of my sovereignty, I have to speak what I feel and what I'm told and what resonates for me. And I always do it with a disclaimer that if it doesn't resonate for you, just take what does, leave what doesn't. If none of it resonates, you stop listening to me. That's absolutely fine. And just go on your own path. We do have free will here in this time matrix. And so we have to honor that in others. But at the same time, my heart does break sometimes when I see there are those on the path that are, and I know what's happening is because it's happened to me. There's holograms in the astral realm that they're getting completely manipulated. They're having all of these amazing astral experiences, working on their psychic development, but they're actually not working on their Christ consciousness expansion. So that's all. It's all a diversion. Yeah, you have experiences, but the astral plane is full of illusions and full of traps. Yeah. And if we just stay there, we never move beyond what's available to us and activate the other DNA. So I also talk about that, and people don't like to hear it sometimes. Yeah,
I love that you speak about that, and I think it's important too. So just in terms of the lunar matrix, or the false lunar matrix, how can we explain this as clearly as possible for everybody watching right now? Because some people are going to be like, well, they do moon rituals, and some people, which I know you and I both are like, no, don't do that. And then, or whatever it may be, they follow it astrologically along, and there's just so many different levels of entrapment, especially for our divine feminine, on the planet at this time.
So I'll say that the lunar matrix is a false matrix, and what I mean by that is that the moon isn't organic. It's not like the sun. It's been placed there aeons ago, and it has a mechanism of mind control. So soul harvesting, siphoning energy, and mind control. It's not the only part of that mechanism, but it's a big part of it. My understanding, though, is that it is actually falling. So it's losing its power, thankfully. But it will, particularly for women, as you said, it will, when it comes around to the full moon, it will siphon and harvest a lot of female energy, sexual energy, and emotional energy, and fear. And a lot of people will feel depleted. They feel like they're kind of a little bit erratic, and they just put it down to the moon like this is to be expected. And I can tell you that that's not the way we're supposed to run. We are not supposed to have these haphazard emotions and feel depleted and feel all over the shop during a full moon. That is a mind control manipulation, and it is a mechanism that's been placed there from the negative alien agenda. And if people aren't sure what that is, I'd say, we could probably do a whole other podcast on that. But there are service to self factions in this universe that are in opposition to us, which we are service to others. A service to self, as it sounds, they are wanting to keep the soul manipulation, and hijack, because our energy is their food. They've disconnected at this time from God's source. They don't have that energetic connection, so they need to rely on a different energy source, which is us. And we are so full of energy because we're vital and we're connected to source. So we're like a battery for them. And I don't mean to say that in a way that scares anyone, because we're still far more powerful once we bring our awareness into that. And we can do so much to keep our energy intact. There is just so, we need to learn, but there's so much that we can do. And letting go of fear and connection to the moon is a big part of that. So since I let go of my connection to the moon, I felt infinitely better. Infinitely better. So it takes some time, and there are implants and siphons and things that it kind of attaches to our energy field, but we can release those. And both Richard and myself can help people release those.
Beautifully said. Thank you. We'll just let that one marinate for a minute. You know, that's a lot to take in for a lot of people, not for us, obviously, because we're familiar with a lot of the inorganic and artificial intelligence and things like that. With there is so much support that is here right now for all of us, and I think that is probably, you know, one of the best things for us to really speak about, you know, as we start to close down the podcast a little bit. And who's all here supporting us? Who's supporting you right now?
Well, my biggest support is always God's source. So I don't use a lot of guides in my work. I used to, but I got sort of down the rabbit hole with that and got, you know, so source is my biggest support, and the guardian groups, which is another thing. But, you know, I'm supported by you, my family. I'm supported by other teachers and way showers around there. So the krystic community is big. We don't realize, but your lovely sacred partner, Jessica Rosalie. There's, Richard's got some amazing programs that are full of support, and Starseed School and those kinds of things, which are all programs that I'm part of. And, you know, there's a lot of mentorship and beings out there that just want that service to others. They're in service. You know, we put a lot of stuff out there for free as well, because we just want to be in service. So you support me a lot, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, but God source is my biggest support. And when we connect to source daily, when we have that connection, because source is part of us, we're always supported. And I think once we really come into that embodiment and that understanding, we're never ever alone, and we're never without support. Sorry about my doggy. Everyone's gone out, and so he's by himself in the laundry, and he's having a bit of a freak out.
Do you want me to pause it?
No, it's okay, because if I go out there, he'll just probably get worse.
So I think, Michele, let's tell everybody, how do they get a hold of you? What are you working on? Anything coming up for you? Like what your YouTube channel, everything, your website. If you could just let everyone know now how they can reach you and contact you, and if there's anything, you know, you're offering right now.
Absolutely. So my website is www.sovereignsouls.com.au. I'm Sovereign Souls on YouTube and Sovereign Souls 444 on Facebook and Instagram. I have brought forth an Ascension mentoring program very recently. Been working on it for a little while, and now it's on offer, where I work with 3 different core processes on a 12-week program to help people step into their sovereignty and their divine purpose and mission. It's obviously a healing program, but it is to support people to do their own work. And people, if they want to just have a chat with me, they can come onto my website. They can book a short call and just see if I'm a good fit for them. And obviously, I also have my YouTube channel, which has a lot of healings, meditations, just freebies, just also processes on how to do your own inner work. that people can do. I'm also offering group quantum healings now for people who, if they can't commit financially to something individual, that there's a group quantum healing that I'll do every month, and it's just something that they can check in and have some self-care at a reasonable price, and you can book that on my website as well.
That's beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for everything that you brought through for this podcast and transmission today. And just to let everyone know, definitely reach out to Michele and say hi and connect with her and see if she's everything resonates for you. And are there any other closing remarks or anything you'd like to make before we sign off?
No, I'll just, my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to you, Richard. So, all of our soul family, we always find each other. And that's been the case for myself, and I found you and Jessica Rosalie. But no, I just think, my biggest, if I had to leave someone with some advice here, I'd just say to always use your heart. If you can anchor into your heart, if you have to do it 1,000 times a day, it doesn't matter. This is our biggest tool. It's a simple tool, but it's an effective tool. And if you start with that, it goes from there. So use your heart center.
Thank you for that pearl of wisdom. We honor you, we love you, and we hold you in our hearts. And we thank everyone that's going to watch this. We thank you for tuning in and supporting this. And I thank you for coming on as well, Michele. Jessica and I love you so much, and all our family as well. And we're both excited to have you on here. So thank you so much.
I love you both as well. Thanks for having me.
This is Richard Melchizedek with Michele Joy on the Awaken New Earth podcast. Thank you for tuning in.